All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, advisors. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to hang out with us here today as we get into what I think is going to be really fun discussion with my friend and colleague, Aaron Grady, who I'd like to introduce. He is our Director of Advisor Consulting here at USA Financial. I'm our Chief Business Development Officer. And very simply put, Aaron and myself have been extremely involved with advisor consulting for many, many years. In fact, most of both of our short careers in this industry. And we spend a tremendous amount of time with advisors in the trenches working on systems, processes, practice management, things like the appointment process. So he and I geek out on this stuff. We're excited to be able to share with you today what we think some of those best practices are. I want to run through just a couple of quick housekeeping items before we get started. We're looking to wrap this up in about 45 quick minutes. So we've got a lot to cover, a lot to get through. In that time, if you have questions, what you're going to notice is should be the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a Q&A box. Please go ahead and type in a question to us. I can't guarantee that we'll be able to get to it, but if time permits at the end of the event, we will go ahead and try and answer some of those questions. If we can't get to it live, we will follow up with you individually after the event. So don't be bashful. Shoot us a note if there's something that you want to hear more about. Also, be sure to stick around to the end. We are going to have a giveaway for those of you that have been a part of these events the last couple months as we've been doing them as a part of this series. We've had some cool things that we've been arming advisors with, and these are actual tools that we're going to get in your hands with no strings attached. So stick around to the end so you can find out how to get your hands on that. And really, I think a good launching point here for us to get started is to springboard off of a meeting that we just did yesterday here at USA Financial. And we had a group together of about a little over 100 financial advisors that were viewing a broadcast for what we call our Chain of Secrets event, which we did virtually. And in that event, we were interviewing 5 advisors that in 2020 had some great growth in their practices. So it was fantastic. In fact, the group of 5, they accounted for on average 49.1% growth in their revenue in 2020 over 2019. And what's really important about that is there's a common denominator there that, they have a lot of things in common that they do in their practice. And one of the things that really jumped out and was really made apparent yesterday was systems and processes. And I think this quote is an awesome way, Aaron, for us to get started. It's, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And today we're going to be talking about a part of the business, a part of your practice that you probably really should have a refined system and process for, and that is the appointment process. And we're going to be getting into some of our favorite things to talk about, best practice wise. But here's what we can tell you. And here's what we know from advisors that we've worked with, both of us for years now, implementing these best practices. And when I say implementing best practices, don't get overwhelmed. We're not saying you need to overhaul what you've got going on. Don't stop what you're doing that's working well. Rather, let's identify some small tweaks. We believe, and you've heard us say this before if you've seen one of these, that small hinges can swing big doors. So what this is all about is uncovering what some of those small hinges are, what some of those small tweaks are that you can help yourself with. And throughout doing that, these are the things that we know inevitably will take place. Your conversion rates will get better. You will get more introductions, which is a lot different than referrals. We'd love to talk with you about that. We know for your staff and for your quality of life, productivity is going to change. You're going to have more order and deliberation. You may be able to work less if that's a goal for you. We know that this kind of stuff is possible. But it all starts with looking at the systems and the processes. And many of the advisors here at USA Financial, we really can point to some specific things that make them stand out, make their revenue stand out in 2020. Specifically, I've been talking about revenue, and I think it's appropriate that we begin with the end in mind here. And, I referenced yesterday the 5 individuals that we were interviewing in a roundtable format for our chain of secrets. And golly, the time just went too fast. And what you see here is they're all scattered about. The 5 of them came from this list. And this is a list of, in 2020 at year end, the top 40 advisors here at USA Financial in regards to the revenue that they generated for their practices. So this is the sum of, transactional securities business, fees from AUM revenue, commissions from insurance and fixed products, the sum of all that together and what they would view as their revenue to their business. And what you can see at a glance here is what happened in 2020. When you go down the line and you look at all the individuals that have the dark green highlight, they grew their business in 2020, in the year of the pandemic. And what's even more, I think, revealing is to look at the ones that maybe they didn't have a huge year. Go ahead and look at their 3-year growth. This is pretty astounding. Just this group of the top 40 that we could fit on the screen, on average, they grew their business over 5% last year. We think that's a really big deal. When we're talking with advisors out in the industry that haven't experienced that, the numbers can be quite surprising, and sometimes they can be a little bit unbelievable, which is why I like to put them up here and show you. Because what we know about 2020 is that everything changed overnight, right? The way that we interact with our clients, the way that we acquire clients, the way that we run marketing and advertising, everything was turned upside down. And we really saw, as we were in the trenches with advisors, we saw 2 reactions. And I'll say that the first reaction is really to hunker down and kind of ride it out. And a lot of advisors, especially those advisors that had sizable books of AUM and recurring revenue, they thought to themselves, well, it's only going to be 2 weeks. I'll hang out for a little bit, and this will be a little bit of a break. And then it kept going, and then it kept going, right? And for some, climbing out of that could have been more difficult, right? Or they're maybe a little late to getting back into the game like they wanted to. We also saw another reaction, and that other reaction was to immediately recognize that there still exist opportunities in our business, new opportunities, and to embrace what those could be and to really try and grow. And embracing that meant, getting a stronghold around new technology, new systems and processes, and doing things to change the client experience. And actually, we saw our advisors that really did adopt this mindset. They became more referable than ever in their business, which is awesome. Now, when we've talked to advisors out there, what we know to be true is that for those that didn't experience that growth, it wasn't that they weren't trying in 2020. In fact, most advisors that we talked to worked harder than they ever have in their careers last year. The problem wasn't they weren't trying. The problem was that we as advisors, we're relationship people. We're not the best people to go out and create systems and processes and technology and stuff on our own. And for many of us, they were just, kind of grasping at trying to keep the practice afloat and keep clients from losing their sanity. And things like practice management took a back seat. And again, it wasn't because they weren't trying. We believe it was because that most advisors weren't getting the support that they deserved in 2020. The support that really mattered to them, someone bringing them tools and systems and processes and technology and ideas, and being able to think faster and take all that heavy lifting off of their plate so they can spend time in front of their people. And we know that was difficult. And, what we want to talk about today is an evergreen topic, Aaron. It's no matter 2020 or not, we know that a simple appointment process formula can do big things inside of a practice. And yes, we saw that things changed in 2020, but many things, especially in regards to the appointment process, did remain consistent. And we're going to jump into that. So before we kick it off, I do want to have some fun with the group. We actually coach advisors to do this in their own live event marketing. And I'm going to address the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is you're sitting here thinking, all right, maybe I've been to something like this before. When are these guys going to try and sell me something? So I've got great news for you. And we're going to share that. So this is the what's in it for you, what's in it for me pitch from Matt Eilers. And what's in it for you today is you're going to get some great nuggets. You can see them bullet pointed here. This is the takeaways that you're going to get. We learn in sales, you need to tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. This is what we're going to share with you. We're going to talk about these things and what they mean to advisors in their businesses. You're going to get some good snapshots of some of the tools, some of the things that advisors were using in 2020 and still now that really helped their appointment processes. And some of these they've been using for years. And we're going to give you the opportunity to get your hands on some of these with no strings attached. So that's what's in it for you. What's in it for us? Well, Aaron and I, like I said, we like to geek out on some of this. We get to show off some of our favorite things to talk about in the industry, and that's appointment process. And along the way, as we get to talk with you and share some stories and ideas, some of you, it's going to click and you're going to think, all right, I get it. This makes sense to me. I'm the type of advisor that I could use something like this in my business. And some of those, you're going to say, all right, I want to talk to these folks, and you're going to want to have a discussion with us. So what's in it for us is we're going to get to talk with some of you at length. And when we do that enough in this business, we end up making new friends and find advisors that we're able to help. So that's the big sales pitch. For those of you that like what you see and like what you hear today, let's have a chat. That's all it is. So relax. I want you to enjoy the rest of our discussion today. Aaron and I are excited to kick this off. And Aaron, I think we're going to jump right in to one of the first topics that we're going to talk about, which is lack of consistency. And we won't really call this a best practice. Maybe we should call this a worst practice. This is one of those things that you want to avoid. So Aaron, let's talk about what the importance of repetition is in these. And it starts with fit process. I'm curious your thoughts around this.
Yeah, it's interesting. And one of the things I will say is, today with the limited time we have, we had to pick out 6 things to talk about today. We probably could have talked all afternoon, and into tomorrow about best practices around, a lot of things that help elite advisors achieve success. But we wanted to kind of narrow the focus specifically around the appointment process. And these were 6 things that we thought were important. The lack of consistency, here's one of the things, whenever I engage with an advisory team, most advisory teams have a process of sorts. Most advisory teams don't have a consistent process. They don't have a documented process, and it's definitely not repeatable. And so one of the things by creating a repeatable process, whether it's a 3-appointment or a 4-appointment process, one, it allows for scalability in your business. It allows for you to bring another advisor in right behind you, a junior, and they'll step right in, lock in step, and take right off in what you're doing. It also removes a lot of emotional stress from you and your team. If they're having to recreate the wheel every single time and you're having to recreate yourself in front of a client, it just creates all kinds of immense stress in the organization. So one of the key things are, whether it's 3 or 4 appointments, whether it's 2 appointments, having a documented, repeatable process is important. But here's 2 big takeaways. In those processes, you need to have a good fit process. Now, part of the fit process is really establishing, who is our ideal client? Who do we want to work with? By having a fit process, now, instead of being a salesperson, which, remember, there's 2 different types of advisors out there. There are salespeople that are chasing commissions, and there's consultants that have a process. And so we can position ourselves with a fit process that, look, we're not a fit for everyone, and that's okay. And so it starts becoming attractive and allows us to get a commitment on the front end from the client, which we're going to talk more about the types of commitments we can get. So having a well thought out fit process also creates immense professional contrast, because it's not that, hey, I'm chasing the commission, or I'm chasing, I'm not pressuring someone to sale. For a sale, it is, you have to be a fit for my practice. The other piece to it is the welcome and onboard. In fact, I was actually just having a conversation with an advisor this morning about this very process. And they said, we do an okay job with this. And quite frankly, it's something that gets missed more often than not. That, understand this, there are 2 times in a client relationship that you, the advisor, are at the highest point of introducibility. One is during moments of crisis, or either personal or financial, and how you, the advisor, respond to the client. The other time is when they first became a client. It's that new bottle of wine. It's the new restaurant. It's the great book you just read. It's the movie you just watched. You want to go out and tell somebody about it. So there's an opportunity when a client first comes on board to really celebrate and stretch that moment in time where you're at the top of mind awareness and the highest peak of introducibility. And so those are two things that we would say, bar none, those are two things you should definitely have in a consistent, repeatable process.
Agreed. And consistency is so critical in this business. And we see advisors take this super serious, right? To where, you're seeing something here on the screen. This is an example of what a welcome or an onboarding process could look like. We believe that as an advisor, you should have a system and a process like this, and your client should know and understand it. And could they explain it to somebody else? Aaron, I'm sure you've had plenty of discussions with advisors that they get more introductions because of the fact that their best clients can articulate what the process is that the advisor has and why it's a good thing, why it's different, why they should check it out. And a lot of people struggle to do that.
Absolutely. It allows you, by having a documented and a formalized appointment process, you can share that with a prospective client, your existing clients, and it allows them to future pace the relationship. It allows them to see down the road as, is this going to take 15 sessions? Is it going to take 5? Is it going to take 2? When they know that you're not just winging it out there, you're not just cobbling stuff together, it gives them peace of mind that you are a polished professional that has a process. And you're right, they're able to share that same message with others.
Yep. Awesome. Let's jump ahead. Let's jump ahead to takeaway number 2, which is wasting clients' time. This one, and I'll start this off with what you see. The first line, keeping appointments to an hour or less. Some of you are very offended right now looking at this. Don't take major offense. I know this is hard. This is really hard because we're in the relationship business at the end of the day. And one thing that we're all very good at, those of you that are tuned in right now, you're really good at building relationships and building trust with people. And what comes with that? Conversation and catching up. And it's your family with these people. So I get it. There's going to be times where you're going to talk for 30, 45 minutes about family stuff before you even get into business. And that's okay. That's important. What I'm encouraging advisors to think about is how can we carve that up? And how can we separate those things? How can we make sure our best clients get that one-on-one time with us to do those things and talk about those things that are important when we don't even have to deal with business? And when we need to get down and put on the business hat, how can we make sure that we're most efficient as possible? Where this is really important is in a first meeting with a prospect. I believe that we should have your meetings an hour or less. In fact, Aaron will share with you here in a minute what that could look like on an agenda, which is another item that we stress you must use. But keeping things to an hour or less is going to tell someone that doesn't really know you yet, it's going to tell them a couple of things. Number one, you have some sort of a path to what this meeting is going to look like. You're not just winging it, right? It's not, hey, come on in. I don't know how long this is going to take. It gives them some predictability. It tells them that you have a little bit of a process. The second thing is it's going to program them to the idea that, okay, when I go in and meet, we're able to get down to business and we can get this done inside of an hour. Imagine the opposite. If someone comes in for a first meeting and it goes just short of 2 hours, what might be going through their head when they leave your office? Maybe a lot of good things, but they also might be thinking, golly, that was 2 hours. It was fun, but if I come back, is it going to be another 2 hours? And then if we do business with this advisor, is it going to be 2 hours every time? That could start to get tricky to manage that time investment. So we don't want to be in a situation where we're fighting against that because we did a good job building a relationship. So there are ways that we can really try and tighten things up, become more efficient. We work with advisors on strategies of how to do this. It could be as easy as just booking your calendar and stacking it and making sure you have that assistant that knocks on the door and points at the wristwatch to let you know the next meeting's out in the lobby. It could be as simple as the agenda, which we're going to talk about. A lot of things that we do, but we believe that respecting their time, and Aaron, I'm going to let you speak to that here in a moment, is super important. So your thoughts, Aaron?
Yeah, and there's something we talked about the other day too. It's the idea that as an advisor, You also don't want to plant the seed in your client's mind that you have all the time in the world. Everybody wants an advisor who's available, but they also don't want an advisor who has nobody else to talk to. Everybody wants to be part of something that's special and exclusive and elite. And if you have all day long to sit and just chat, well, why? So it creates seeds of doubt that you really don't want to go down that path. So I would agree with you 100%. Keep the meetings to a defined amount of time. Definitely that first meeting, you want to try to keep that first meeting for sure to an hour to set the right expectation of what these meetings are going to look like going forward.
So we're going to put up an idea of the agenda. And Aaron, I'd love for you to speak to this. I know this is a big part of consulting.
Agendas are great. They accomplish a lot of things. We're talking about trying to keep a tight, band around how much time we're going to spend. But one of the things we talk about as we're coaching with advisors, we talk about barriers to entry. And barriers to entry are simply mental hurdles that the client has to go through to progress to that next step. And there's two that happen in that first meeting, or any meeting for that matter, when a client's going to meet with you. But it's more important when you think about it with someone who doesn't know you. And those two barriers to entry are expectations. So what's going to happen? What are we going to talk about? How long is this thing going to take? The other barrier to entry is, am I going to get sold? Because like it or not, we as an industry, people have this assumption that when they walk into a financial advisor's office, no matter what they think they know about you, there's this presumption that somewhere along the line, I'm going to be sold. Matt started this call out just a little while ago talking about, hey, let's take that off the table. We're not selling you. Your clients do the same thing. So by using an agenda and sharing that with them, one, it lets your clients know that you have a process. It lets them know what's going to happen in this meeting. So it clears the expectations. And then also it clearly shows that, hey, look, this is our agenda and there's not going to be a sales process here in this first meeting specifically. It allows them to know, hey, we're not selling, we're consultants here. So what it really does is it allows the clients to focus on what you're saying and be present in the meeting. An example I always use is you think about being on an airplane. I'm sure many of you have been on an airplane, probably not recently, but in the past. And you pull up that in-flight magazine and you're flipping through, you find a nice article and you're reading the article and you're probably 2 or 3 pages into it. But during that process, you're thinking about, are we going to land on time? When is she going to bring me my drink? Why is that kid crying behind me? There's all these mental distractions that you're going through. And then all of a sudden you realize you've read 3 pages and you don't remember anything you've read. Your clients are doing the same thing. They're jumping through all these mental hurdles going, what are they going to talk about next? When is it going to jump out with a sales pitch? By putting the agenda there, we could clear all that away and we let them to be present and focused in the meeting with you.
Bingo. I remember, Aaron, when this earth-shattering concept was introduced to me and the light bulb went off and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so simple. It's a freaking agenda. But I'm telling you, like it makes such a big difference. It's so profound what it actually does. And advisors, they create one, they send it to someone, and here's this big, right? They send it to them in advance of the meeting. Email the agenda. It's not very hard. And then what do? You print it off and you have it in front of you when they come in. And they're, like you said, they're going to be so much more comfortable and aware of like what's happening. They'll be able to relax, but also it's a big accountability tool for the advisor. You put this down, now I got to stick to it. Now my meeting will be 55 minutes as advertised on this agenda. So such a small tweak that makes a big difference that we've learned over the years. And this is a fun one. So be sure you're using an agenda. We'd love to talk with you about how we can help here. So on to the next. Another worst practice, we'll call this one, selling too much. I'm going to get up on my soapbox for a moment here because this is a problem that the industry is riddled with. We have got, and Aaron mentioned this earlier when talking about a salesperson. I refer to him as a sales pest. There are way too many sales pests in this industry that in the first meeting, you go and you sit down with them and it is nothing but a sales pitch. And they're talking product and they're talking about what you need and what they can do. Like, it's gross. And you know what? It doesn't work as well as what we're proposing here, and which is to, and now this is hard, we're salespeople, I get it, but to listen more, which means talking less and asking better questions along the way. The easiest way to be able to talk less and listen more is to ask better questions. We spend a ton of time with advisors on this. And this is really foundational in building that relationship that you're trying to do. We need to uncover what are the most important things to them in their personal life and all that before we even get into the finances. And we got to have a strategy or a process on our end for how we're going to engage that and have an idea of how it's going to work. Because there are some strategic ways to do this. One of my favorite questions, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later, is one that comes from the strategic coach process. It's called the R factor question. Other will subscribe to somebody like maybe George Kinder and his questions, but subscribe to something is what I'm saying. Something that's going to help you get to the core of what's important, and be mindful that these questions can also serve another purpose. They can also drive a wedge between you and the other advisor. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment here too. But what we need to make sure we don't get caught in is the trap of trying to get out all the word vomit of everything we know in this industry, right? And we know it starts out and it looks like this. And then it whittles down a little bit, and we know it gets a little bit smaller about what we can actually put into words and articulate with clarity. And then there's what actually comes out, what we think that we can articulate, right? And then very small circle is what the clients actually are going to understand, and sometimes it's what they actually want to talk about. Remember, they're not coming to see you as the advisor. They're not entertaining the idea of hiring you to learn everything that you do. That's why they're hiring you, for you to do it for them. So having an understanding of what it is that they actually want to talk about, believe it or not, family goals, personal milestones, family milestones, those are the types of things they actually want to talk about. And they just want you to help them figure out how you can use their money as a vehicle to get them to those things. So having a process to make sure that you aren't overstepping any of the lines of where you turn into that sales pest, especially in your first couple of meetings with a prospect, is really important.
I would agree. The only thing I would add, Matt, is, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this. We're going to share some ideas around useful tools that you can create to help with this process. Just a simple old adage that we've all heard before, that facts tell, stories sell, and we live in an industry that's full of jargon and acronyms and financial data, and that all becomes a swirling mass for most clients. And so, coalescing a lot of this into simple stories that imprint a compelling message, which we help advisors craft every single day, is where you really move the needle and separate yourself from the pack.
Absolutely. One thing that you see here is, this is an example of a snippet coming out of our ACE process. ACE is a homegrown USA Financial appointment process. ACE stands for Advisor Client Engagement. And essentially, it's a track that advisors can run down, and it gives them tools, documents, scripting, the whole thing for pre-first appointment, first appointment, after the first, second, after the whole thing. And advisors like to go and grab bits and pieces and tools from that. And here's one example of questions that we need to be talking about in a meeting. And you see here, this is a modified version of the strategic coach R factor question right here. I shortened it so it could fit on the screen a little bit better, but we need to engage prospects differently. This is stuff that we like to talk with you about. This is a long conversation. We really can't do it justice here in regards to teaching you how to do this, but just know that selling less and asking these better questions is going to differentiate you big time from anybody else that they've sat down with. And most importantly, differentiate you from the preconceived notion that these people have of you as an advisor when they come in to sit down, which we've talked about. They think you're going to try and sell them something. Let's just not do that. There is another way, right? So this moves us on into item number 4, which is throwing mud. And no, we're not recommending that you throw mud. We recommend that you don't throw mud. And we talked a little bit about wedge questions, and we talked a little bit about how to get their wheels turning and ask them things. And what we're recommending here is that your questions are geared around the idea of helping them understand maybe some of the areas of focus that haven't been given in the past, maybe some areas that need attention. And sometimes we can just show them that here's an area that needs some attention and it hasn't had any, without throwing mud at the other advisor. Because you remember when we do this, when we throw mud, we're not just throwing mud at the other advisor. When we talk negatively about them, we're throwing mud right at that prospect. They picked that guy or that gal. They picked that advisor. They chose to work with that person. They chose to give that person decision-making power over how they should manage their money. So some people, they take it as a major insult. We believe that it's not necessary. And there are ways to ask the right questions, when it comes to maybe service related questions, asking them about services that they should have had. Like, hey, has anyone ever built out for you an asset cycle portfolio system? Has anyone else built out for you a pension max analysis? Start to get them thinking about all the things that they could be missing out on. And that's essentially like balling up the mud and handing it to them and allowing them to draw their own conclusions. Aaron, I know this comes up when we're talking through appointment process stuff. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Kind of most advisors have been trained in a methodology where when they first meet a client, it's running through all their, it's do the rake over, grab all the statements, and they're going through, and as they're doing the analysis, which is just natural. As soon as they find any opportunities to, where there's a problem or mistake, they try to drive a wedge by pointing it back to the other advisor. And you're absolutely right. Every time I try to run down someone else to make myself look better, it always backfires. It's, as you said, it's better to position yourself as ask the right questions to get clients to lead themselves down their own path. And you know what? At the end of the day, as we talk about perception is reality, the clients, when they come to their own conclusion, they'll understand that there's a better opportunity with the other advisor, and that we are not selling anything. We are simply providing you advice and direction and guidance. And if you've made poor choices before, we're not going to point the finger and say, oh, you made a bad decision there, Mr. and Mrs. Client. We're just going to say, look, here's our opportunities. And this is where we see there are great opportunities to continue to improve your situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's move on. Let's jump into the fifth takeaway, not communicating value. So, Aaron, I want you to definitely take it away with this one, because this is very much about clients understanding the value that's created. And I know that's a big part of the coaching that you help advisors with every day.
Absolutely. And I said it earlier, and I've probably said it a couple of times on this call, and it comes up a lot. There are two types of advisors, salespeople chasing commissions and consultants that have a process. And part of communicating value is showing that you have a process and a methodology. And, there's a saying that goes, price is only an issue in the absence of value. I've heard it said another way: in the absence of perceived value, everything comes back to what you cost. And for those advisors that are out there constantly battling on price, constantly, warring on who's got the better portfolio, really what's come down to is the client hasn't perceived value in your overall methodology and process. And so the only thing they're left to judge you on is, how much are you charging me? So the ability to really truly convey and move away from things like you see here on the screen, industry terms and jargon, but more importantly, products, pricing, and performance. Because with products, pricing, and performance, here's the challenge there. If a client comes to you for those three things, those are the same three reasons they're going to leave you. If they came to you because you had a better or lower price, the first time they find another advisor that charges less than you do, they're out the door.
Yeah, you're essentially because you have yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and you said the word perfectly. What we've seen is a huge movement in this industry to commoditization. The E-trades, the self-directed accounts. They're looking at you as a transaction, and so to push yourself away from that and truly show yourself as a true consultant, what we have to get our clients focusing on is your philosophy, your planning strategy and process, because what that does is, one, it insulates yourself from movements of the market, Because if we have a process, if the market goes down, that's okay. We anticipate that as part of our process. We've positioned you to weather those things. But if we said, oh, here's our performance record and it doesn't perform next year because COVID happens, I've tied my relationship to it. So we want to get our clients focusing on philosophy, planning, strategy, and process. And that also allows us to dig a moat around our best clients and allow us to competitor-proof those relationships.
I love it. And what you shared is just so important about what does the basis and the foundation of the relationship. What's that built on? We don't want it built on products, pricing, and performance. Because like you said, the minute that stuff doesn't work, are we any good to them anymore? We want to be held out for the other things that we're doing, things like philosophy, things like strategy, things like our process, things that we can measure differently than just having to measure performance. It keeps us out of tricky conversations and it keeps the client's mindset where it needs to be. So they're measuring value and how we want to be measured. So super important. We'll get into the last item here. And this one I think is really important. And this is certainly a best practice. This is a best practice of what top advisors are doing out there. Now at USA Financial, we're a little bit more saturated with advisors that are doing this. Which is more than what you see at most firms, because we believe that you should go and get 3 commitments. You're probably wondering, what the heck is he talking about? Well, what I mean is there are really only as many as 3 commitments that you can get from a client when they are engaging your firm, when they're becoming a client of the firm. And that's a verbal commitment. That's them looking you in the eye and say, yeah, Matt, I'm in. I want to be a client of the firm. I want you to be my guy. I want you to do this for me. Then there's the written commitment, which is where, all right, I'm going to sign something. I'm going to make it official. I'm going to ink this thing. And I'm going to say, I'm signing this. I'm in. I'm a client of the firm. Let's do business. And then even further, and this is where when I was referencing about advisors at USA, where we have a ton of saturation here, is the financial. This is when someone is actually willing to pay you for your time and for your expertise for doing the work on top of how you normally and traditionally would get paid. If you can lock down all 3 of those throughout your engagement process, those relationships are super solid. If you get someone to the point to where they literally are saying, yes, I want these services so bad that I'm willing to write you a check for a couple $1,000 for you to go and spend time doing it so that I can then give you my money and you can manage all of it. I don't know how you can beat that. So we really encourage that advisors go for all 3. Go for all 3 forms of commitment. I mentioned the saturation at USA Financial. Close to 70%. That's a high number. 70% of the advisors at USA Financial charge an upfront fee for their time and expertise. Now, they don't always collect the money up front. Sometimes they'll collect it in arrears after they've delivered the plan, but they're charging a fee for their time and expertise, and they're getting the commitment from the client that they're a client of the firm and that they're hiring the advisor to do all these services and things that they are engaging them for before they even are managing the money and receiving a dime in commission. And what this does to the relationship is it just changes it. Now, all of a sudden, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, this is the money manager I recommend. This is the product I recommend. You're no longer in a situation where you have to sell that because they paid you to tell them where to put the money. And this is a big mind shift that it takes for the advisors. We spend hours and hours with advisors individually on how to make this shift to start charging fees for time and expertise. We believe you should do it. We believe you're worth it. Your time is certainly worth it. And what you're seeing here is a couple of examples of documents that we use to accomplish this. Is there Grady? I'll let you speak to the fit script here for a moment. That's how we're going in for that verbal commitment. What does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things, as we've been going through this, our call today, there's been opportunities where we haven't shown you all the additional resources we have behind the scenes, whether we're helping build an appointment process for an advisory team, structuring their agendas, helping them build out their scripts for what kind of questions they ask. We have all these tools and resources, and this is just an example of some of those. The fit script is one of the things that, we believe strongly in establishing who is your ideal client and using that very first interaction with a prospective client to establish a fit. Once again, it makes you very attractive. So we work through the scripting and the way to actually position that in a way that draws the client in and allows them to make that verbal commitment. You know what? I've enjoyed the time we've had together. Yes, I want to take the next step. Some advisors just go ahead and schedule the next appointment, but that's really not necessarily getting a verbal commitment. That's just saying, they're willing to show up again, right? You may give them more free stuff. By getting a verbal commitment from the fit process, what we're getting them to say is, you know what? I want to take the next step in your process to becoming a client. And so the next logical progression, as Matt was sharing, is the written commitment. So once you've done some discovery, once you've kind of gotten a good sense of their goals and objectives, and you've aligned with wedge questions as to what services and what are the opportunities for planning you can do for them. Now you can build value in what you're going to be doing. Sometimes advisors will say, well, I can put this kind of stuff together, and it's a swirling mass of conversation. Now I can put it on paper and they can physically see, here's what I'm going to do. It's going to take me 10 hours to assemble all of this for you. And are you wanting me to do this for you, Mr. or Mrs. Client? And they get to be part of that process, sign on the dotted line and say, yes, I want to engage you for these services. So those are two big steps in the process. And then obviously, as Matt talked about, the next layer would be the financial commitment for a client. But, we have the tools and resources that this is just a way to make it real and tangible for the advisors we work with.
Absolutely. And this is really just a taste of kind of what's behind the curtain. There's a lot more to this. And what it comes down to is we have a system, we have a process for all this kind of stuff. And I think this was a fantastic quote for us to include, that a bad system will beat a good person every time. And in this business, systems and processes help and good ones work. And we're believers in them. And I know we can't do a lot of them justice today, but they're out there. We're including just some screenshots here of some of the different tools. These are just tools that we're using in the appointment process, and tools that we have. They're already created. You don't have to do the heavy lifting here. You can tap into this library of things that we have. And there's a lot of them. This is something that, one of our senior biz dev consultants can run you through a demo if you'd like to see some of this stuff. These all come from a tool called our Easy Marketing Builder, where you log in, your logo is immediately put on the document, your disclosure, your address, and it's automatically submitted to compliance department on your behalf, and you can send it right to your printer. It's pretty slick. And then here are some more of practice management, really like taking the idea of process and branding it and making it unique to your firm. So now all of a sudden, this process you have for engaging new people, you can actually brand the thing, and it can become one of the, I guess, pillars of your financial advisory practice, so that your clients can articulate it. Now, this is a lot of stuff we actually talked about in one of our first webinars. If you'd like to get access to that, please let the senior business development consultant that'll reach out to you know. We can get you the recording. It's up on YouTube, and we talk in more depth about how this kind of stuff can really help in the engagement process. So we are running out of time, Aaron. So I'm going to jump us through to where we can start to close this thing out for everybody. I know you're all busy to get back to your day, but stick with me for another couple minutes. This is important here, because what we know about all of the advisors that we talked about, those top 40 that we kind of spotlighted that experienced the growth. This was a common denominator. All the appointment process stuff, they're all very good at having a system and a process, and it's consistent. And we know that all these best practices did actually create these things for them. That is why we were able to witness the results that we witnessed in green, the growth in 2020, in the year of the pandemic. I mean, it's crazy to think about. Some advisors had banner years, and that's just awesome. So what we, really invite you to think about here is with all the stuff that is out there that you could utilize, that you could implement into your business. Sure, you could go out and build it. You could create it. You could take the time to assemble it all and do the research. And I mean, or you could skip the trial and error. And what we found, and this is a common denominator of all the advisors that tend to partner with USA Financial, is that there are some things that they have in common that make what we do a really good fit for them. And so I ask you the question, are you a believer that investments and insurance and annuity, all of those things should have a place in a financial plan? Are you looking to grow your AUM and your recurring revenue? Are you coachable? That's kind of a big deal in regards to, systems and processes. Are you willing and able to invest in things like marketing and branding and practice management? Are you able to work on your business? Are you someone that, realizes that importance of systems and tools and processes and tech? And are you humble, but yet driven, hungry, and ready to grow? And are some of you sitting there thinking, man, who's talking to me about this kind of stuff? Are you tired of a partner that doesn't quite understand your business in this degree? And what I would ask you is if you answer yes to these questions, let's just get on the phone and have a chat. We should probably talk, because if you're answering yes to this, and this sounds like you, we're really, really well suited to help your business. I'm just putting it out there. We know who we're best suited for. And if this is you, and if this is what, over here is something that you're wanting to aspire to, we need to talk. Let's just kick the tires and have a conversation and have a chat. And one thing I want you to know, and this is super important, all these numbers in green and all the stuff you see, this didn't happen overnight. These advisors weren't having this type of success when they partnered with USA Financial to help us, or for us to help them grow their business. This took some work. Some of this was years in the making. Sometimes it's a couple years before they start to see the things that they want, but that's what we're good at, helping advisors grow. So at this point, you're probably wondering, all right, who the heck are these guys? Matt and Aaron, they're talking about appointment process stuff. Are they a BD? Are they an RIA? Are they an FMO? Are they what? And the answer is yes, we are all of those things. In fact, we're a lot of things here at USA Financial. We've got a broker dealer under the roof. We've got multiple RIAs. We've got a TAMP. We've got an FMO or an IMO for insurance distribution. We have a coaching firm, a marketing firm, an HQ tech firm. Yes, we have all of those things. But what's important isn't that we have all of these things, all these companies under the roof. It's what having all of these in one place does for the financial advisor. It gives them a one-stop shop to just focus on growing their business, right? Increasing the enterprise value of their practice. And you're probably sitting there thinking now, well, golly, a company with all these entities and all this going on, there's got to be thousands of advisors there. How the heck am I going to fit? And the answer is, well, no, there isn't. And it's completely by design. What you're seeing here is probably one of the most telling slides that I can put up about the story of USA Financial. Yes, we've been around since 1988. And no, currently, we don't align with thousands of advisors. Currently, we're aligned with about 252 advisor offices across the country, and it's completely by design. What you see here is our history. There was a point in time where we were on the trajectory of aligning with many, and we made what I think is probably one of the most pivotal decisions in the history of USA. And it's that we knew who we were best suited for. And we realigned with those individuals, parted ways with a good chunk of this 3,700 to realign with about 200-ish at that time. And this blue line is our aggregate revenue growth since then. But that blue line is absolutely nothing but a direct reflection of the advisors that we work with. Their revenue is our revenue. We only make money, so to speak, when advisors are growing their business. So what you can see is the power that we've kind of figured out by really finding the right fit and identifying the advisor we know that we're best suited to help and aligning with them. And this is all about, rather than going a mile wide and an inch deep into a bunch of practices, we go an inch wide and a mile deep into some specific practices that we know we can really move the needle. So if you feel like that's you from some of those questions, seriously, let's just get on the phone and have a conversation. So to wrap this up, what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about what we're going to get in your hands. This is hot off the press. We have a guide to improving your appointment and process, goes into more depth on some of these items. As a thank you for being here today, you're officially alumni of of Matt and Aaron's Lunchtime Academy. We're going to get this in your hands. And then also we want to make available to you, if you'd like to have a quick chat, we'd love to demo something that jumped out at you today. If it was a specific tool that you saw that we talked about, or it was up on the screen, please make note of it. Better yet, you could even shoot us a note in the chat box or the Q&A box and let us know what that is, and we'll get that ready to be able to show you. But we would love to hop on a quick demo, do a screen share, arm you with some of these tools, and show you how to use them. No strings attached. Let's just have a conversation and see where it goes. And one last thing, and then we'll start to close this out, is please save the date. Write this down. Thursday, April 22nd at 12 noon Eastern, we are going to have our next installment of the Advisor Advancement Mastermind Series. This is going to be taking a dive back into the practice management and marketing direction. So it's no doubt going to be fun. So with that, Aaron, I want to thank you for joining me. It was a lot of fun today to get into this stuff. So thank you for your time. Advisors, thank you so much. We never take your time for granted. I know for some of you, you sacrificed a lunch hour to spend time with us. Others, you sacrificed hours out of your day that you could be spending with your clients. So thank you for your time. We look forward to that next conversation. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.